Unlike me, you have a future in this world. The hero of the next era can't be struck down by a mere can of cola.
제가 죽어도 슬퍼할 사람은 없어요.
Hey there, I'm Vafty and I play anime games, dating sims, and visual novels. What happens when you fake being a powerful shaman for a paycheck, and then real demons show up? Welcome to the Spiritless Shaman. My spiritual stats are sitting at a smooth 0, and we're about to bluff our way through hauntings, hyper-demonic entities, and, let's just say, a crew of chaotic anime girls who think we're an absolute god at exorcisms. Let's just see how the Vafty do. Across the street, from the bus stop, I saw a girl. Her disheveled hair with its unique color and her dark eyes caught my attention. She looked like she might have come from another country? Europe? Germany? And she was dressed in a strange outfit. But there was one thing that took some sort of mystery out of her.
제발.
She picked me, the master of, Tokyo. She looked on the verge of tears and she pleaded for help. What in the world was she doing? Such a girl might normally stand out in a crowd, but the people around her, were just going about their business, completely ignoring her. It was like she was completely invisible, only not to my eye. This country was nothing but a concrete jungle, but did that really make it okay to ignore others like that? I don't do that. Well, I mean, it was rather funny way to think, considering the fact that I was also trying my best to ignore her. I was just one of the other guys in the crowd. My bus had arrived. I turned away from the girl and took a nervous step forward. Today was the day of my big job interview. No matter what that girl was up to, I'm leaving her behind. There was nothing that could hold me back from that. My future was the real priority here. Come on, let's be serious. The bus pulled away from the bus stop. I could see my chud-like reflection in the window, atop the image of her outline as she faced the opposite direction. She knew I had just tried to run away and ignore her. But I was gonna play it off smooth. My brain was filled to the brim with interview answers and strategies. You had to focus on the interview, the whole scene that had just played out. I would walk in, I would shake his hand, he would ask me some bro-to-bro questions, and we would just knock it off straight after that. It would be wiped from my memory in just a few minutes. Little did I know. Only 2 days later would I put my life in that girl's hands. And that's quite the change.
Later.
It was midnight when I decided to take a seat in the park. The full moon seemed unnecessarily bright. I wanted to steer up into its radiance, and with a long howl, I wanted to rip my shirt off at the top 2 buttons. As it ripped off, I wanted hair to start growing from my body as I turned into a muscular wolf. I would snarl and you would hear me growl. But that was obviously not going to happen. I reached for the tab on the can of cola. If only it was more like a Coke. I'd bought it at the convenience store when I realized that I had been shaking it every which way like a madman, bent on mixing it for some reason. If I had actually opened it, the contents would have sprayed out everywhere. I'm kind of an idiot. My life. Where had I gone so wrong? Was it really just because of that bus accident? I lifted my right hand above my head to block out the moon. I wiggled my few fingers around for a second, then rested my hand on my head. Nothing wrong at all. It was just a normal human head. The doctors had told me that the accident hadn't left me with any serious mental handicaps, and that I wouldn't experience any lasting symptoms. At least, not any physical apparent symptoms. I had this weird tick where I would always flick and say strange things. And for some reason I kept feeling like an absolute idiot ever since the accident. To be more precise, it was more like I couldn't bring myself to focus long enough to sit in front of a workbook. I just couldn't force myself to study. In the end, I had just enough luck on the next year's entrance exam to get me into an adequate university. But then, I took a long break in the middle to focus on something I actually wanted to do. Surprisingly enough, I was able to make a name for myself on the path I pursued during that break and thought I was doing well. But then I hit that wall called reality, and here I was, hopelessly late in my search for a job. There had to be someone in a worse position than mine. Maybe a homeless guy? But thinking about that didn't help me either. But speaking of things that might help, I looked down at the can of cola for comfort. I popped the tab. It sprayed out everywhere. My hands were suddenly covered in the sticky syrup, and as the contents of the can shot out like a cannon. Right. I had forgotten that I had shaken it up before. A yell escaped my lips as I threw the can as hard as I could. Could nothing go right? I could at least be sure that I was the least happy person in this particular park. Not a single soul was less happy than I. After all, no one else was in this whole dumb park. A metallic sound rang out. What? And I turned my head. The girl looked over at me, her eyes not quite focusing. There was no blame in that look. And actually, she looked a little relieved.
됐어. 포기할래.
Like a doll with a ripped seam, she collapsed where she was standing. No, you can't. I tried to sit her up, but her eyes were closed and her body was limp. I killed someone with a can of cola? No way. I lifted the girl up, set her on a nearby bench and began shaking her wildly. Hey, hello? Wake up, snap out of it. I could tell that she was too old to be a student, but she seemed too small to be a contributing member of society. She was definitely younger than I was. Don't you die on me. Don't do it. If you die, Tonight at 9, a psychopathic man fails at a job interview. Then in his rage, he snaps and kills a young girl with a can of cola.
이젠 싫어요.
Oh, damn.
지쳤단 말이에요.
Don't you give up on me. Unlike me, you have a future in this world. The hero of the next era can't be struck down by a mere can of cola.
제가 죽어도 슬퍼할 사람은 없어요. 이쪽 세상에.
I might give a little guilty one. No one to shed a tear? What on earth made this girl so pessimistic? No way. Did my can cause this? I had to bring this girl back to me somehow. But what could I say? I would be sad. I would be sad if you died. Your mother would be heartbroken. The lying option always seems to work. I would be sad if you died. I would be sad.
네?
If you died, I would be sad for you. And the girl's eyes fluttered open and shut. As the glow of the street lamps reflected off her irises, it seemed as though her eyes regained a bit of their light.
슬퍼요?
Of course!
울어주시나요?
I'd bawl my eyes out, so hold on. Suddenly, tears rolling down the girl's cheeks as she began to smile.
고마워. 고마워요. 이젠 편히 죽을 수 있어.
Wait. How many times must I say it? Don't die on me.
저를 위해 울어주는 사람이 한 명이라도 있다니.
So be happy and alive. I cradled the girl in my arms and stood up. Just hold on. I'm going to get you to a hospital. Huh? The girl flopped around weakly in protest. It looked like she was on the verge of tears again. What's wrong? Where does it hurt? Uh-huh.
너무 무서워요. 제발 내려주세요.
I carefully set the girl back down on the ground. Bipedal stance confirmed. Motor functions optimal. She seems surprisingly alright. She seems so alright. Had I actually taken her to a hospital, the doctor would have probably given me an earful for wasting his time. Oh, yes, sorry about that.
아니요. 오히려 고마워요.
You are? The girl had hid half of her face behind her hood. Looking a little frightened, her whole getup was rather strange looking. You aren't dizzy or anything?
네.
I wiped away the cold sweat and took a seat on the nearby bench. Now even I was getting flustered. For some reason the girl sat next to me. And she stared at me with frightened eyes, her hands clutching the sides of her hood. The uncomfortable silence stretched on. Did she want money? Was she some kind of beggar? Well, it felt like I was going to have to break the silence. Should I start by apologizing for hitting her with the can, or maybe saying some other crazy Riz line? Should I ask her if she was just pretending it? Don't hurt if she wasn't. Huh? She looked just as confused as me. I could make out a bunch of red marks on the girl's arm. She was hurt. Had I hit her arm, not her head? Yet it seemed like the marks were fading in and out. What are those? Oh, she knows me staring. Your left arm. What's wrong with it? Did you hurt it when you fell? The girl cocked her head to the side, as if she weren't quite following my line of questioning, as if I was speaking another language. And soon after, as if she'd been struck by some grand revelation, her eyes went wide.
보여요?
Yeah? That was the question that came out of her mouth? What, does she think I'm a blind idiot? Huh?
이 문자가 보이시는 거예요?
Of course I can see them, light as day. The girl slid closer and held out her arm. They're intricately drawn in various shades of red. I could see a number of strange patterns on her arm. Actually, I could remember seeing someone in their second year of middle school draw similar patterns on their right arm. They were... Huh? Where'd they... What? Just like that, they were back. Was I seeing things? Well, these new tattoo technology is getting crazy. I see them. There are all sorts of strange patterns drawn in red. What's up? The girl was starting to act weird again. God, she just was so weird. Suddenly, she was moving to cover her mouth and I thought I could see her trembling. Maybe it was my monster aura? Hey, are you alright? Then suddenly she burst into tears again. Why? Seriously, why?
계속 찾아다녔는데
Huh?
아무도 없어서 아무도 알아보지 못해서 이제 포기했었는데
What are you talking about?
다행이에요. 정말 다행이에요.
I had no idea what she was going on about. But I decided to let whatever was happening play out, because the tears were slowly beginning to dry up. After a few minutes, she got a hold of herself and held her arm out for me once more.
정말로 보이시죠?
Yeah, I can see them. I can see them. Yeah. I mean, sure. Could you point them out with your finger, maybe? I reached out to trace the marks on her slender arm, but as my finger got close, her face suddenly flushed and she backed away. What's up? Yeah? She avoided my gaze for a moment as she took a deep breath.
네, 이제 괜찮아요.
Classic bait and switch. She still wouldn't look me in the eyes, but she carefully extended her arm. Was she holding her arm out for a vaccine or something? I slowly reached out to touch the red marks. I could have done without the strange sounds though. What the heck was that? I carefully traced out the patterns on her arm. I felt like I might break something if I pushed too hard.
네, 맞아요.
The girl smiled warmly. It looked like she was having a hard time calming herself down. But she looked genuinely happy. Did she realize I just drew a C and B on her arm? Who knows? What on earth are these?
그게
And then she finally got the words out.
이 문양을 보실 수 있다는 건 즉 당신은
Uh-huh.
정령의 힘을 갖고 계시다는 거예요.
She was still looking a bit weak, yet she tried her best to put on a big smile as she yelled out that declaration. Something was definitely knocked loose up there. Maybe a couple things. But it wasn't my Coca-Cola can that did it.
부탁이에요. 제발 이야기를 들어주세요.
But I guess there were levels to this mosquito game. Damn! As we stood there in the park at midnight, as I gazed at the tears in her eyes, what really weighed my leg down and kept me there was the fact that I had almost killed her with a can of cola. Well, she just had me wrapped around her finger. And I flopped down onto the bench with an audible thud. Alright, go on, say whatever you... What was I getting myself into?
고마워요.
She pulled her hood over her head as she spoke in that mosquito-like whine. I tried to buzz it out.
이야기하자면 긴데요.
Give me the short version then.
저는 정령사예요.
I felt an urgent desire to go home. Shaman. I heard this pluck of the tune one too many times.
정령사는 그러니까 이쪽 세계가 아니라 저희 세계에 있는 직업인데요.
The moon was bright, yet I couldn't find it in the night sky. I stared up at the sky as I listened to her story. She claimed that she had been studying the spiritual arts in another world in preparation for an upcoming exam. After a long tireless span of studying for the written exam, she grew tired of it, using a little departure to learn some new spiritual arts as an excuse she decided to play a little trick, and as a result of that trick, she'd been pulled into my world. If she didn't get back quickly, she was going to miss her chance to take the exam, which would lead to a severe scolding from her strict mother. And also,
이쪽 세계엔 정령이 없어요.
of course there weren't. Those things only existed in our imagination. Delusional lady?
어떻게든 돌아갈 방법은 생각해냈는데 정령이 하나도 없으니까 혼자 힘으론 도저히 해낼 수 없어서 조금이라도 정령과 관계 있는 분을 찾아다니고 있었어요.
I've got nothing for you in terms of spiritual stuff. I got a couple dolls in my pocket.
관계 있으세요?
She held her arm up for me to see again, and once again I saw the intricate patterns that had been drawn there.
이건 정령 문자예요. 정령이 없는 이쪽 세계 사람들은 아무도 못 보는 거라고요. 이게 보이는 당신은 분명 저희 세계와 관계가 있거나 그러한 능력을 지니고 계신 거예요. 무엇이 원인인지는 몰라요. 어쩌면 이 세상의 법칙을 이루는 뭔가가 알 수 없는 이유로 저희 세계에 간섭해서
Wait, hold on up, sick.
얼티밋 스피릿원. 그러니까 모든 정령의 근간을 이루는 존재와의 링크가 열리는 현상이 실제로 발생한 걸지도 몰라요.
Stop. Just stop right there.
뭐라?
So much cringe.
오그라든다는 게 뭐예요?
I stared at the crazy girl sitting next to me. After telling her tale, she was practically gasping for breath, as if she had used up her every last ounce of energy. Her strange clothes, that flush on her face, the innocent glow behind her eyes. As I stared, she tugged on her hood to hide the more of her face. Of course, revealing all of that had made her feel self-conscious. I don't really want to get pulled into the fantasy world of some 8th grader, and I feel like I've paid off the debt I owe her for having her hit with a can. So I tried booking it immediately. I stood up without a word, then I strode off, hoping to make my escape. I tried to ignore her as she tailed along behind me. I just looked straight. I knew she was looking right into the back of my head.
당신밖에 없단 말이에요. 제발.
I looked back. That one caught me. The girl was just lying there. It looked like she had hit the ground pretty hard too. If that was an act, she could be a star in Hollywood. And as she lay there, I realized that she wasn't moving at all. She hadn't let out a moan this whole time. Actually, I wasn't sure if she was even breathing. Hey! I pulled her upright and began to shake her. It really hadn't been about my can at all. Her face was deathly pale and her breathing was weak and laboured. Her fingers trembled as if there wasn't an ounce of energy left in her body to move them. Way back when, around the time of the college entrance exam back in high school, a few friends have shown symptoms like these. Oh, jeez. And then the cause of all those symptoms... Hey! How long has it been since you've eaten? The girl replied with a low growl that sounded of death. This was turning out to be the worst day of my life. Why me? And in the middle of the night at all times. On the day of my failed interview. I had to buy dinner for this weird little girl. I kept pushing the bowl of rice into her hands despite her refusals.
안 돼, 안 돼요. 이런 걸 받을 순 없어요. 정령술로 어떻게든 할게요.
Spirits don't exist.
하지만
Just eat before it gets cold. If you don't eat it, I'm going to have to throw it away. That's a waste of money as well.
먹을게요. 먹는다고요.
There you go. I could see her hands shaking as she mixed the sauce and other ingredients into the bowl. She was kind of getting me a little hungry as well. She stared at me as she scooped up the first bite. And after taking that first bite...
고마워요.
Anytime.
뭔가 먹는 걸. 아, 생각해보니 이쪽 세계의 돈을 갖고 있진 않네요. 정령술로 해결할 생각이었는데 정령이 없어.
She was able to eat spirits? 8th grader syndrome or cult? That was a scary thought. Maybe it wasn't some cult thing? Maybe it was simply a case of runaway child. Maybe her delusion had clashed somehow with her family life. She'd been forced to run away. If that were the case and I chose to leave her here, that could lead to even bigger trouble. I mean, I called myself garbage before, but this was next level garbo behavior. At some point during her meal, she had taken out a strange looking book and began to read. She can read? Is this book important enough that you have to read while eating?
돌아가면 또 시험을 쳐야 해서요. 혹시 불쾌하셨다면?
No, it's not like that. I'm not some sort of sick, deranged monster. Dumb. I stared at the studying girl as I plotted my next course of action. Right, I just needed to find some way to shatter this girl's delusion and send her on her way back home. If it turned out to be cult business or family trouble, there wasn't much I could do. But there were so many ways to shatter a delusion, even a delusion so elaborate. You want to make a bet?
네?
What's this bet gonna be? What is he talking about? I pointed at the people hanging around the convenience store. You said it yourself, I am the only one able to see the characters on your arm.
네.
Then prove it. If you can prove it, I'll help you with your spirit problems, and even pay for your meal. It was late, but there were quite a few people hanging out about in the convenience store, including the girl behind the counter. I counted 5. If the other people could see these patterns that apparently only I was able to see, that would put a halt to the shaman act. Then maybe I could get her real name and address, stick her in a taxi, and send her on her way. I'm great at plans. However, things could get a little messy when you tried pulling people out of their delusions, so to avoid that mess...
고마워요.
Yeah, what? Duh?
생긴 건 무섭지만 좋은 분이시네요.
I look what? Okay, anyways, that would have sounded better without the scary part, but thanks. Wait, so it wasn't the touching that had scared her before? But my chopped ass face? Whatever, I just need to move past all that. Well then, who should we ask? The girl behind the counter was memorizing English words from a book. Was she a college student? It was pretty late to still be studying. Hey. Hi. I bought that instant meal a few minutes ago. We don't give refunds on meals after they've been eaten. I'm not looking for a refund. I think it was pretty good. The casual way she answered made it seem like she had gotten that request more than once. Could you just look here for a second? I held the girl's arm out for the part-timer to see. You can see all these things, eh? I don't see any barcode. I don't see any barcode for me to scan. No, I'm talking about all these. I'm not trying to buy her or anything. What do you think of these markings? The part-timer cocked her head and stared at the girl's arm. And then her eyes went wide as she had suddenly realized something. Is this right? What? Is this some fortune-telling thing? And you're about to tell me I'm going to fail my exam if I don't see these markings you're talking about?
시험?
No, it's not like that. I just forgot all the words I memorized. Yeah, sauce. She must not have seen anything. Also, the shaman girl was looking deathly pale. What is it?
저기 이쪽 세계에선 시험에 망할 사람을 미리 알 수 있나요? 전 시험에 떨어질 운명인 거예요?
Fail. Fortune telling isn't real. Calm down.
없군요.
I'm surrounded by weirdos. Well then, who should we ask? Maybe the high school student? There was a high school student in front of the convenience store. His empty gaze was fixed on an empty pack of cigs in his hand. He was wearing something like a military uniform for some reason, but he was definitely just your ordinary high school student. Hey there, little guy. Looking to buy some smokes? I'm an adult. I'm not a student, I swear. Nice try, funny guy. Just to let you know, that face of yours will never pass for 18. I'll have you know that I've served in the military. I'll show you my ID, but I forgot to bring it. Tell me the 4 parts of a soldier's creed. The creed, soldier. Yeah. Our resolution? The student hesitated, unable to think of an answer. What kind of gun did you fire? It was a WA-2000. That gun was probably twice as old as he was. However, this was all completely besides the point. I don't care. Just wait for me to leave before you light one up. In the meantime, could you check something out for me? I positioned the girl right in front of the stand.
I don't speak the English.
네?
You don't need to speak English. Just look at her arm.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of red markings, right? Like wrist to elbow. Yeah. The student just stood there staring at the girl's arm. He'd stare at me a couple times occasionally and we'd lock eyes, then stare back at the arm.
Is it really tiny drawings or something?
You don't see them? They're ginormous.
No.
I asked you a question?
Yeah.
Hey, you really can't see these markings? Answer me.
Help? I'll never smoke again.
The student ran off. Why'd he...
무섭게 왜 그러셨어요?
I didn't. I just... Who cares? Why do you look so happy? Seriously? Not a single person had been able to see the markings on her arms. Am I going crazy? But they were so blatantly obvious. How is that possible? And they're gone.
어때요? 믿어주시겠어요?
The girl clutched her hood as she asked. Damn. Maybe I do believe this bull. Was that some sort of trick? Seriously, this was making my head hurt. Just because I'm the only one who can see those markings, that doesn't prove the spirits and shamans are real.
그렇겠죠.
Still, I promised to help, so I guess I'll help. What can I do?
정말요?
Yeah, I don't go back on my promises. A bet was a bet. I don't have much choice in the matter. Besides, it wasn't like I had a company to report to or anything. Shoot away. What do you need? I might have been different if I had kept my mouth shut, but now I had to stick by my word, and I'm a man of my word. But not right this second. Let's start tomorrow.
감사해요.
And stop with the tears already. We left the convenience store behind us and headed down the dark path home. The moon was nowhere to be seen. Under that night sky, the girl's strange outfit suited her. However...
네?
Do you have somewhere to sleep?
낮에 한 군데를 봐뒀어요.
She saw a place? Where is this place?
마침 이 근처예요.
The girl grabbed me by the hand and dragged me to a vacant lot. Weeds had taken over the place. There was a big pile of burlap sacks. They all looked slightly sticky too. No way.
이 풀밭이라면 그럭저럭 푹신할 것 같고 이 포대를 덮어쓰고 잘 수도 있어요.
She was planning on sleeping here? The girl who was small enough to lose to an alley cat?
그러고 보니 정룡에게 지켜달라고 할 수가 없네요. 괜찮겠지?
If I left her here, I'd probably come back to a frozen corpse in the morning. Hey.
네.
Follow me. I'm gonna regret this. Come on.
잠시만요. 안 돼요. 잡아 끌지 마세요.
There was a certain business that stayed busy right up until the break of dawn, especially in such a busy area, teeming with couples. I'm talking about a LOVE hotel. Even though it says motel on the front, don't worry about that. Why was this area packed with nothing but love hotels? Why weren't there any normal hotels? This runaway playing the part of shaman, in my professional opinion, needed a safe place to lay her head down. If she were a male shaman, I could just bring her home with me and let her sleep on the couch. Actually, when I really thought about it, bringing her to a love hotel actually felt worse than bringing her home. But that concern passed quickly.
어라? 여관인 건가요? 이쪽 세계의 여관은 굉장히 반짝거리네요.
Yeah, it's in it. She was acting like she hadn't the slightest idea of what a love hotel was. Did she really not know? Or was this just part of her act? Oh well. Get in there. I asked for a room and put it on my card. I told the clerk that despite us coming in together, only the girl was going to sleep here. And the clerk gave me a sideways look. So here's your key. Head upstairs, clean yourself up a bit, and get a good night's sleep.
잠깐만요. 지금 골드가 돈이 들어간 거죠?
Yep.
하지만 대체 왜?
because it's just the kind of guy I am.
아까도 제가 죽으면 슬프다고 하셨고. 혹시 절 아세요?
What strange delusion was this girl concocting now? I lost the bet, and I said I'd help. Plus, I hit you with that can of cola.
그래도
Don't mention it. Rest up and I'll meet you at that cafe over there in the morning. I gave her a little wave and turned to leave.
잠깐만요.
God damn it, what now? The girl rushed toward me and grabbed my shirt. What's wrong?
아니, 저 이거 당장은 이해 안 되실 테지만
She ripped off the cloak she was wearing and handed it to me. And here I had been thinking it was attached to the rest of her outfit. Complex patterns had been etched into the lining of the cape, and scraps of white cloth were hanging here and there. There were so many words formed from characters I'd never seen before.
이쪽 세계에도 뭔가 통신 수단이 있다는 걸 알고 있거든요. 뭐라도 좋으니까 식별할 수 있는 단어를 적어주시지 않겠어요? 저희 세계에서라면 연락이 가능할 수도 있으니까. 부탁드려요.
It was a strange way of phrasing the question, but she was basically asking for my phone number? What a sorry excuse for a shaman. What was the channel of the spirits going to do with my phone number? The scraps of white cloth were already packed with foreign characters, but there were two pieces of cloth on top that stood out with their different colors. What's written on these two?
어머님이랑 갑순이.
Your what? Kapsuni.
친하게 지내는 엘프예요. 이름이 좀 특이하죠. 엘프들 이름은 죄다 그런 식이에요. 아, 엘프란 건 이종족인데.
You don't need to explain. I know what an elf is. However, I did want to meet this elf friend of hers sometime. With a name like Kapsuni, what would she look like? I wrote my name and phone number on the lining of the hood of her cloak.
시후라고 하는군요.
That's my name. Yeah, that's me.
시후.
Huh?
분명 들은 적이 있는 이름인데.
It's a pretty common name around these parts.
아, 졸려서 머리가 안 돌아가.
Just hit the hay, get some rest.
안 돼요. 정령술 이론을 한 번 더 외우고 자야.
Go to bed. I put the keys in her hand and spun her around and pushed her towards the hotel. Then I skipped out with a big smile on my face. Finally, I was rid of her. The girl slowly stumbled up the stairs. She turned around and came back down. Again? What's up?
아니요. 대단한 게 아니라.
What's up? The girl stood there for quite some time as she tried to get something out.
아라예요.
Ara?
제 이름이 아라예요. 줄인 거지만.
Just like that, she finally told me her name. It didn't really feel like a proper shaman's name. She looked like she was waiting for some kind of response, so... You're Korean, aren't you? Your name doesn't really match your occupation. You're Korean, aren't you? Your name doesn't really match your occupation. You're Korean, aren't you? You're lying about all this my world and your world stuff, aren't you?
네?
No.
갑자기 왜 그러세요?
I gave her a nod and a knowing look. The name Ara, that's a Korean name. Every kindergarten class has at least one little girl named Ara. Her little friends had probably called her Araria, or maybe Arari. It would actually be rare to find a person who didn't know at least one Ara. it was as common as a name as Min-soo or Seong-ho for a boy.
이건 풀네임이 아니에요. 줄인 거라고요. 저는 아직 정식 정용사가 아니라서 가문 이름을 대는 건...
Yeah, go to bed. Larp-de-larp. I turned away, leaving the flustered Ara to head up to her hotel room. We would put an end to this in the morning. And that's where we're capping off today's episode of the Spiritless Shaman. And honestly, to say the least, it's got me intrigued. A real chin scratcher. Is she just full of it, or is she truly a shaman from another world? And how are we actually going there? Is there some sort of portal she'll open? Are we helping to create a portal? What's happening beyond this, and what awaits us? Do we join the shaman exam, or do we just watch from the sides? And how will we be when we go there? Who knows? If you liked what you saw, don't forget to drop a like and drop a comment if you think that she's full of it. If she's actually goated and, well, when she goes back to her world, she'll be whipping out spells like no man's business. And if we're just going to be straight Gladukian, passing through that. Well, who knows, but I'm excited to see. And don't forget, I am Vafty-Doo, and I command you to smash that subscribe button. And also, remember, if a king doesn't lead, how can he expect his subs to follow? See you next video.